Hey yo, what's good though? Soul here, and welcome back to the story mode. So, like a lot of you, I didn't think that we'd be talking about this again, but you know what? In all honesty, this game is just so absolutely fascinating that there's something constantly bringing me back. Nowadays, when it comes to the Pokemon franchise, I just simply want more. More things that are somewhere along the lines of Pokemon Legends, because frankly, that opened a floodgate for me. And so, with that thought in mind, I'm sure a lot of us can agree on one thing. This cannot be the last rodeo for Pokemon Legends, right? I'm sure that most of us understand by now that Pokemon Legends in of itself is kind of a fluke. It's no mystery or secret that Pokemon Legends was meant to be the 4th gen remakes. And while that's not written down or stated officially anywhere, it's not a hard conclusion to come to. When people were truly digging in and picking apart the game, they found that room that's very oddly alike the original room from Twin Leaf Town in the original Diamond and Pearl. And if Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are of any indication of how much time these people get to develop these games, it's not hard to conclude that they didn't have enough time to try and figure out how to fit all of Sinnoh into this big 3D environment like this. Unless they changed Sinnoh at its core somehow. And thus, Pokemon Legends is born. And so, when they came up with that concept, they had a little bit more creative freedom to do whatever they wanted with the year that they had to develop the game. Allowing the player character to dodge roll, sprint, ride different Pokemon. Having a crouch mechanic that actually works so that you can hide away from the bigger, badder Pokemon. Being able to, in real time, throw a Pokeball so you can catch a wild Pokemon without having to battle them. Having said all that, all of these concepts, possibilities, and mechanics are more than enough to justify Legends for its own series, don't you think? I don't care how this has gone about. If people want to call it a spin-off series, fine, I don't really care. However, I feel like that's kind of a disservice considering that all of the events from these games are obviously canon. Regardless of that though, if this was taken care of, I think that the series overall could benefit greatly if the potential is actually utilized properly. Now recently, we just talked about the possibility of Pokemon Let's Go making a potential comeback. We surmise that it's going to be a long while before we get any form of remakes or the next generation of Pokemon, and the only thing that we haven't seen from a mainline game for Pokemon in a long time is Pokemon Let's Go. And again, you can call it a spin-off all you want, but A, spin-offs don't usually take up the yearly slot that are used for the mainline games, and B, spin-off games are rarely, if ever, developed by the head developers of the main series. So, just putting that out there. Anyways, in the previous video, a lot of you guys were saying that you would prefer Pokemon Legends to come back over Pokemon Let's Go, and frankly, that's not a mystery. And for the record, I 100% agree. I hope that nobody got the impression that I wanted Let's Go back from that other video. That's so far from the case. For the last couple of months or so, specifically since the release of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, we've spent a lot of time discussing how Pokemon Legends compares up to the new generational games. However, regardless of how the two compare to one another, we're pretty much all in agreement that we would like to see more Pokemon Legends in between the new generational games of Pokemon. This is ideal for so many different reasons. For me personally though, I see it mainly for the potential of being able to more deeply explore new and or pre-existing lore regarding certain regions. If there's at least one thing that I find undoubtedly interesting about the Pokemon series is that most of these regions have extremely rich lore. For damn near a decade now, we've all been wondering why Kyurem is so easily able to fuse with Zekrom or Reshiram. The history of AZ and why he was separated from his Pokemon for so long. The discovery of Ultra Beasts and why they were delegated the title of otherworldly Pokemon. It is so unbelievably easy to just take what Legends did and somehow apply it to these previous generations of Pokemon. Now here's the thing, Pokemon does nothing but absolutely benefit from the possibility of Pokemon Legends just becoming its own thing. However though, for people like moi that really want it to become a series, I know that there are a couple of risks. Specifically for us. As to whether or not the benefits outweigh the risks is entirely up for debate considering that the benefits are mostly geared towards Game Freak and Pokemon Company as opposed to us. For example, creating character models. If they were to go ahead and do something along the lines of what they did with Legends, then it would be pretty easy to create characters given the fact that they could just follow blueprints. Irida, for starters, is a prime example. What the hell May's ancestor is doing in Sinnoh is completely beyond me, but you know what? I didn't question it, because it didn't matter. It was hundreds to thousands of years ago. So, with that in mind, you guys could easily just grab characters from previous regions, no matter what it is, and make characters based on the blueprints of these characters, and we would be none the wiser. Hell, having ancestry from characters from other regions present in other regions in Legends games would actually make even more of a mystery. It would make things more interesting as to what their history is. Shoot, maybe I'm trying to find out what Marnie and Pierre's grandpa is doing over in Johto. I'm trying to find out what business Hal's great-grandmother had over in Unova. Am I tripping, or is it literally just that easy? Another thing that probably would make development a little bit easier is the complete creative freedom you would have over the land, as opposed to trying to fit these big cities and stuff into these worlds. If I were to go back to Unova at least like 100 or so years ago, I'm not expecting the landscapes and stuff that we have today, because lands change over time. I mean, yeah, sure, obviously people were moving in 100 or so years ago, so I would like to see some tents set up or something at least along the lines of Jubilife Town. But other than that, I don't think we need to get all that crazy, so I'm happy with just a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And honestly, I gotta say, the idea of having regional variants that existed hundreds of years ago specifically is absolutely genius. Regional forms and variants and all of that simply just create the opportunity for unutilized Pokemon to become viable again. Some Pokemon still obviously don't need it, like Sneasler did not need to exist, but Hisui and Braviary? Mwah! Wonderful Pokemon! I used it on my second playthrough of Legends Arceus, and I love that Pokemon. Design-wise, typing-wise, level-up moveset-wise, it's excellent. So if we're talking a new version of whatever region we're going back to, you could literally utilize any Pokemon. For example, Skitty. Skitty and Delcatty are literally garbage Pokemon, serve no usage other than being cute. Hey, maybe 100 years ago they were more viable for competitive battle. I can't even take that sentence seriously, but you get what I'm getting at. The point of it is, in this situation, you barely have to create new Pokemon. You just gotta take Pokemon that already exist, revitalize them a little bit, and give them new life. And frankly, giving regional variants to Pokemon from hundreds of years ago honestly makes even more sense than giving regional variants for Pokemon in newer regions. But that's just a me thing. We'll talk about that another time. Another benefit is literally just carrying over the formula, making little tweaks, and just perfecting it. If you have to change anything, I don't know, maybe just add on some different ways to throw Pokeballs so we can get better catches, or maybe have some kind of a score system. Hey, maybe make it so that there's some way to befriend wild Pokemon before we even try to catch them. Make it so that we can physically participate in minigames alongside the Pokemon that we already caught so that we can raise their friendship. I'm just saying, the formula that you guys created was perfectly fine. Now all you gotta do is port it over and just add on to it a little bit. Something that I'm sure that you guys are more than familiar with already. Simply put, it ain't broke, so it doesn't need fixings, just a couple of touch-ups. So yeah, as I stated before I went on this whole tangent about the building blocks, the Legends formula works, and it's entirely up to you, Game Freak, as to how you want to be able to spin that. Ah, yes, of course, when there's some form of up of any kind, there always has to be downs. And now I turn my attention to you, Pokemon fans, as to what this risk could potentially mean for the Legends series, and Pokemon in general. As we've been talking about for the last 2.5 years on this channel, if there's two things that we know that the Pokemon Company likes at this point, it's time crunch development and yearly releases. Working with the Switch, they had to recognize that they had to slow down just a little bit because they recognize that they're not working with their handheld predecessors like they were before. They can't make games that fast and make them actually function. At least you wouldn't think so, and then they decided that function didn't even need to be a thing, as long as the game was out. So here we are with Scarlet and Violet. I digress. Here's where the big risk factor comes in. I'm sure they discovered this when they started development on it to begin with, but Legends is no small game. As a matter of fact, they were so backed up with Legends that they called in a different team entirely to do the 4th gen remakes. I cannot, for the life of me, think of any other mainline game that hasn't been developed in-house besides those remakes. Yeah, that probably tells you everything right there, doesn't it? Making Legends its own series raises the potential for us to get real stinkers by like tenfold. Like we've stated already, Pokemon Company will not miss a potential window for release if they can help it. I see one of two potential futures in which Legends becomes a real possibility. Both are not really ideal. Number one, they start hiring outside help and now the remakes down the line will start to suffer. This is simply just a repeat of what happened last year, in which they hire outside help, breathe down their necks, don't give them any time to develop, and then the remakes suffer because they figured, hey, the blueprint's already there, all they have to do is follow it with our very strict guidelines, and we could get a game out in a year. Now, I don't think that I need to sit here and explain again as to why this is a problem when the evidence is tangible in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. The money that they made off of those games prove that they don't really need to improve on what the original games gave us, they just need to give us those games again. And it just works for their pockets. Now, while that one seems bad, in comparison to number 2, I'll take number 1 any day. Number 2 is a much more dire situation that I would love to avoid at all costs. The second option is the very real possibility of them separating the team even more. I have no doubt in my mind that Game Freak is a very big team, whether it's one half or both halves together or whatever. However, splitting the team by thirds will start to kill the series entirely. Hold on, let's back it up. Kill is kind of dramatic. The series won't ever die. Let's just say it'll damage it. On one hand, yeah, it can be really beneficial to split the team up. I have no doubt in my mind that they probably did that to take away the stress of yearly releases by giving two little teams more time to work on the big releases. And that's totally fine, I completely understand that because Game Freak is obviously filled to the brim with very talented developers and creators. This is proven by the Pokemon games in of themselves. Despite the overall quality, people love these games for a reason and they've done a good job developing them with the time allotted. So in turn, creating a Team C so that they could have even more time to develop games isn't all that bad of an idea. However, in that same vein, I feel like it could be extremely harmful to the series. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and shamelessly plug my video where I talk about Pokemon Legends versus Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. In that video, I compare the two games directly. However, I acknowledge that those games were obviously being developed around the same time. And there's legitimately no debating that either. Pokemon Legends came out literally just a couple of weeks before Generation 9 was announced. Anyway, in that video I go over a lot of things, but the primary takeaway is that Pokemon Legends and Scarlet and Violet are complete polar opposites of one another. I like both of those games, but for the complete opposite reasons. So in turn, the existence of both of these games have proven my thought process in which we need as many brains on these games as possible, because otherwise we are not going to evolve the way that we want to. Pun 100% absolutely intended. Separating that team any more than it already has been is just not beneficial in any way. A bigger team that's familiar with the series with more time to develop the game is just a better outcome. There's legitimately no debating that. Please don't make me seem like I'm crazy. Am I crazy? I'm probably a little crazy, but you get what I'm getting at. Now, I do say all of this. However, this is all just purely speculation and hypotheticals. At this point in time, there's absolutely nothing on record saying that Team A can't just finish up whatever they're doing with the DLC while Team B works on Pokemon Legends or some other thing. So in a way, all I'm saying is take everything that I say with a grain of salt because all of it is purely panic speculation. With this previous year, I'm just very scared and frustrated with this series. I just want the best for it, and it always shows so much potential, only for it to fall short because of time and manpower. I want a Legend series so bad because it is the most unique thing that we have ever had for the mainline series. We simply cannot lose that. Pokemon Legends cannot be just delegated to a glorified tech demo and left to dust when the potential for that series outweighs almost everything Pokemon has given us so far. Not only do a lot of us want more of that, I think a lot of us can agree that the series needs more like that. So, frankly speaking, whatever direction they decide to take with Pokemon Legends, I'll be happy because they decided to take it in a direction at all. And that's all I can ask for at this point. Yeah, no. No, I see you trying to hide from me. Yeah, no, you can hide all you want, but I'm not the one following you. The mic is. I just so happen to go where the mic is, and it's already in your back pocket. So why don't you go ahead and pull it out of there, turn that sucker on, and go ahead and tell me, what do you think? Do you think that the reality of a Pokemon Legends series is real and existent and tangible? Can you see it in the near future? Or do you not want it? Do you not see a future for Pokemon Legends whatsoever? You don't even want it, even if it was a real thing? Tell me everything you guys are thinking in that comment section below, because you know for a fact that I am always, always, always down there with you guys. But with that, it does appear to be skedaddle o'clock. So, I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content like this. And with that, I'm Gonzo. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!